Hey fellas, PV2 Smurf here. PV2 Smurf here. PV2 Smurf here. Oh fellas, PV2 Smurf here. Oh fellas, PV2 Smurf here. I'm gonna do an introduction video on a video that is forthcoming. It takes a lot of time to make sure it's filmed adequate so that way anybody, anywhere in my land of 2,000 plus subscribers, thank you very much for making that happen. So anybody can use this as reference to either do their own or they can use this reference to do their Tacoma in the same fashion. I want to make sure that I link the things that I use below. I'm going to make sure that I adequately explain some of the reasoning behind why I chose the lubricants, the tools, things like that and that sort of nature. So without further ado, I'm going to go down the list. As I go down this list, as you can adequately see some of the things that are forthcoming in the next video. Now, I want to put out this video because it's going to be a lot shorter in length. The video being smaller in length will kind of give you an adaptation to what is yet to come forth out of this video. So that way, if you're not interested, you can wait around to get to the next video. But if you are interested, it'll give you something to look forward to. List of things that I have for the forthcoming video are part of my 100,000 mile service interval on our Toyota Tacoma, which is pictured here. Since we've had our Toyota Tacoma, we've done a number of different things for this specific project. I did a poll. The poll showed that you guys wanted more videos on this Tacoma, and I thought, well, why not just do a full 100K service? So as I'm driving down the road one day, I look down and I see what you're seeing right now. As soon as that occurred, I thought, you know what? This would be a perfect thing to do. So what I do, so then I pulled out the factory owner's manual. I went through the owner's manual, which should be located in your glove box as well as it was in mine, even though my vehicle was pre-owned prior to me having it. I pulled the factory owner's manual out. It gave me all the listings for all the specifics. All I did was put it on this chart that you're going to see right here. And I'm also holding in my hand as I read this off. I tried to split the 100,000 mile service interval and service steps required between 100. I've used the 100,000 and the 105,000. I tried to split the service between above ground and on ground, so that way in the event that you don't have the tools or adequate means to get under the vehicle at the current time, then maybe you can just tackle the above ground stuff and do that. Then when you get adequate time, space, or whatever, then you can tackle the on ground things. So the in cab, I'm going to start the first step in doing this was starting in the in cab or above ground. So inside the cab, at least you need to inspect the cabin filter, the driver floor mat. I assume the driver floor mat is from the previous incident that occurred with the Toyota Prius, driving, accelerating, and wouldn't stop when the brake was pushed. Unsure, but that's something that we're going to check and something you should check. Next thing is the parking brake. When you inspect your parking brake, it's supposed to have the 5 to 7 clicks, wiper blades, so that way you make sure you got adequate wiper blades because you're already doing a service. Might as well check those things. Some things that's still above ground but not inside the cab but under the hood are all the fluid levels that can be seen from inside the hood. Now, specifics of being able to see inside the hood of the vehicle is mainly because it's still above the ground. It's really simple to do a visual inspection on these really critical fluids and things that you need to do. Though we're going to be changing all the fluids in our 100,000 mile service interval, I wanted to make note that this is something that you can check visually. If you don't have adequate means or monetary funding in order to do that, you can still inspect these fluids. They'll tell you a lot, and you'll see in the video. The only thing we're not going to change, obviously, is the washer fluid. Who changes out their washer fluid? The only time I can imagine anybody would change their windshield washer fluid would be if they used water temporary and then winter months are coming or colder weather is and they need to get that out of there. I never put water in the windshield washer fluid tank specifically, so I don't forget to do that. But in a pinch, if I had to, I sure would. And so you might want to change that, but we're not going to change that. Other things that we're going to check, as you've seen on this list right here, are battery terminals. We're also going to look at the drive belt, inspect and replace that. Now we're going to take a look at the drive belt as you'll see in the video and make a determination if we're going to change this or not. The spark plugs, specifically on the spark plugs, when looking in the factory owner's manual, it tells you to use iridium tip plugs and it says do not gap them. So let me rephrase that. Iridium tip plugs, do not gap them. The reason why is because the specific factory plug, which number is listed here, that plug specifically has a dimension on it for the gap that we need. Now the gap that's needed has to be at 0.031 inches or 0.8 millimeters of a gap. However, when looking online, other than the factory plug part number that's listed here, the only other one that I could find, which was iridium tip but looked different, is auto light plugs. Auto light plugs to me were gapped incorrectly for this specific application. I'm unsure if it will perfect the performance of the vehicle, fuel mileage, and other things, so I just went with the factory plugs that are listed here and this part number. Other things that we're going to do while we're under the hood is clean out our throttle body and our PCV valve. Now the reason why you want to clean those is because debris and gunk buildup occur on these, and as indicated by Big E, sorry I haven't introduced him to now, Big E as pictured here has been a Toyota service technician for well over 15 years, and I've really worked a lot with Big E on this project to make sure that I give you the most accurate information and the most up-to-date things that he can give me based on his experience. Big E said to make sure that you clean the throttle body and you clean the PCV valve. He said commonly these cause engine light issues, poor fuel economy, amongst many other things with the vehicle, and these are things that are often overlooked that come in for service at the dealership he works at. So he said make sure that you clean those. He said you can use carb cleaner or ether, aka starter fluid, either one to clean those, and we'll show you how to do that. It's pretty simple. Now on to the meat and potatoes of the service and things that were a major concern to me to make sure I keep this vehicle functioning properly as a daily driver. We're going to change out all of our liquids. Now in changing all of our liquids, it takes a little time, it takes a little finesse, it takes even more time to make sure I can film it at the right angle so that way you all can see what's going on. Commonly I watch videos and I see people, they turn it on, they say, hey, we're going to change this, and then the next cut scene goes to, hey, it's done, let's go to the next thing. To me, that doesn't show the end user, being you all, how to actually get under there, where it's located, what size socket I need, and things like that. And I want to make sure this is detailed so anybody who owns a Tacoma from 2016 to 2021 can get on their line, watch this video, make them a couple notes, make some good homework notes, go out, purchase their stuff, and have everything they need to do this job without any hiccups or anything coming up and them having to be without a vehicle and have to get a ride to the parts store to go get something they didn't have or something they missed. Stuff that's on the ground of the vehicle that you have to get under the vehicle for will include the following, as you can see right here. For the liquids we're going to do the radiator. Now draining the radiator, I had to order this kit, which you can see right here. This kit was pretty cheap. However, none of the local parts stores had this kit in stock, which really blows my mind. I have no idea why somebody wouldn't carry this. It's a common item and something I think would sell very good. So my idea is, why wouldn't you have this? But it was not in any of the 4 to 5 large chain parts stores that I went to, including CardQuest, which is locally owned and which is not a sponsor of this video, but I'm a big fan of the store in general and their owner. After I purchased the item you just seen, Big E said to make sure that I only use antifreeze that's Toyota or Asian brand because it's pink, and he said he sees a lot of common engine failure parts with that, including buildup in the radiator. This vehicle specifically has a tow package. Other things that he says he sees that occurs more often than not is premature water pump failure. Now, I don't know about you, but I sure don't want water pump failing, because then that leads to other issues, such as the issue we had on the 2009 Tacoma, where I kept noticing water was an issue and it kept failing. The water pump was good, but because it overheated, end up causing the head gasket to go bad. In turn, we end up having to replace the entire cylinder head. We don't want to go that route again. He said to make sure we use the Toyota pink fluid. He said that was specific. Do not skip out on that. So I hopped on over to a popular online bidding website, got a hold of a seller on there, and I was able to buy this fluid you see here. He said the Toyota fluid and the Asian fluid are both the exact same thing. He said, but this right here doesn't have as big a price tag as the dealership is going to have. He said it's critical to make sure you use this. Now, the only other fluid I seen that was pink in the store was started as Zurex, I believe was the brand. If it's wrong, I'll tell you what the name of it is here on the screen. But he said this one specifically is specifically used for Toyota, Lexus, and Scions. He said do not skip out on this step to pay the extra for this fluid. I would recommend that you are supposed to change this at 100,000 miles. I recommend that you spend the extra money and you buy the pink Asian, however you want to pronounce it, Asian fluid or Toyota fluid, and you'll need 3 gallons of that, as you'll see. Now the brake fluid is going to also be changed, as you can see next on the list. Will be changed specifically because that is critical, because you've got to have brakes for one, and for two, brake fluid is hydrophilic, which means it loves water, and if you get water and things in there, cause premature wear in all of the braking system, and that includes all of it. Anytime it gets any kind of moisture or water in there, it will cause damage. So we're going to change the fluid out. I am putting synthetic in it, as you'll see in the video, to make sure that I can get the best possible life out of this braking system. The next fluid on the list that will be in the video is our power steering fluid. The owner's manual suggests you use ATF or automatic transmission fluid, Dexron 2 or 3. There's a crap load of different ATFs that you want to use. I can't specify for which brand is better, but going on down the list, the fluid that we come up on next is our differential fluid. Specifically, the book just lists to use LT 7585 weight GL-5. So LT, I assume, means light truck, and then 75 to 85 is the weight, and GL5 is the specific API standard of fluid to use. The thing that I used prior that I feel I had very good luck out of and had zero issues with, I used, and I'll place the link right up here in the top for you. I used it when I replaced and put a spool in our Toyota pickup / Hilux truck, and I had zero issues with it, and I know that I beat the daylights out of that thing, so there's no issue there. So I'm going with that fluid, and you'll see. The last fluid that we're going to change, and this to me seemed to be the most important and I spent the most money on, the reason being is because I have yet to see very few of these trucks that are V6, extended cab, and a 6-speed manual. I've seen a lot of these that are automatics, but to see a 6-speed manual, especially in America, to me is very, very uncommon. So I want to make sure I use the best possible fluid ever, so that way I get good mileage and good work out of this transmission before it was to have complete failure of some kind. So I did not skip out on the fluid / oil that goes in the transmission. With that, I use the brand you'll see that's on here. Specifically with that brand, it says that you could use GL3 as seen here, or GL4 7590. Big E stressed, do not use synchro mesh. Do not use synchro mesh in it. I don't know if he was specific because mine was a standard shift, or because even in automatics too, I'm unsure, but he said do not use synchro mesh. Do not use synchro mesh. So don't use synchro mesh. Mine I'm doing for the manual transmission. As you can see here, it comes with the towing package, so therefore I believe it uses a little more fluid. So the capacity on it was 2.6. Of course you can't buy a 2.6 or 2.6 quarts or 2.5 liters. Therefore I went with 3 quarts. You'll see that in the video. Other things that you want to do that I will show some glimpse of in the video, but not a lot because it's really just kind of tedious and boring and nobody really wants to see it. I want to make sure that I retorque all the chassis bolts. One thing you want to make sure you do is retorque and check the tightness of all the drive line / drive shaft bolts, and that's critical, especially the owner's manual stresses. If you are towing or putting any kind of stress at all on your truck, and more likely if you're driving one you want to make sure you retorque all the connections for that while you're there. The last thing that we're going to torque is our tires. We're going to check and make sure those are at 83 foot-pounds like the factory owner's manual says they're supposed to be. The very last thing on this list that is going to be done is we're going to lube all the drive shaft U-joints. That's all of them. This one has a carrier bearing in it, so therefore we have an extra one, but we're going to lube them all. We're also going to check our ball joints and see if they're serviceable, and all the front suspension parts and see if they're serviceable. If they are, we're going to lube them as well. Above all, guys, I want to say thanks for hanging in here with me. 2,000 subscribers later. You guys really just are the best. I appreciate it. I don't get a lot of feedback in the comments from a lot of stuff, but I'd be more than happy to listen to anything you guys think that I could change, modify, or something I'm just absolutely dead wrong on. You just let me know. I'll check it out in the comment, see if it's something I can implement moving forward. But as always, guys, remember, your rig, your call.